This is TWiT.
Earlier this week, Google held its Made by Google event. And as has become, it seems, at least somewhat of a tradition here on this show, when we talk about Android and when we talk about Google, there's one guest I always love to have join us. It is Jason Howell. Welcome back to the show, Jason.
Hello, it's me and my dog Sugar, who probably needs to get her claws clipped because as she walks on the hardwood floor, it's a little noisy. So I apologize, but we are here together. How you doing, Micah?
I'm doing well, thank you. I have one dog who is that way. She has dark nails, so she has to be taken to someone to get her nails clipped, whereas the other one has clear, so I can clip them myself. Yeah. So sometimes hers goes a little bit longer, and she tap dances for us. So I think you were actually at the Made by Google event earlier, weren't you? Yeah, how was that?
Indeed. It was the first time that I've made it in person to one of Google's hardware events. I'm so used to covering them from a distance, and it was actually really cool. I gotta say, it was just down in Mountain View, so I didn't have to fly anywhere. I had to drive for a couple hours to get there, but I saw a lot of really cool people and in person instead of online, which is kind of novel in this day and age. And yeah, got to take a look all throughout the like 3 floors of the building where they had all of their efforts displayed. All the hardware, software demos, everything. You name it, it was all there. It was really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to be there in person and get to do the demos. So, of course, Google announced quite a bit at this event, and I thought it would be good to kind of break it up into 2 parts. So part 1 is the hardware that Google announced. And yes, you all have to wait for Jason to talk about the AI stuff.
It's so hard to pull them apart. That's the challenge, though, is that Google really has integrated all this stuff directly. All the threads are using AI. And so it's hard to talk about one and not the other, but I'll try.
I appreciate that. So let's talk about the new Pixel devices. What are their names? What separates them? What are the displays? And what's new with these latest Pixels?
You're looking for the specs of all the new hardware. I'm super excited to get my hands on some of the new hardware. This year we've got 3 different standard phones, and then we've got a foldable. We'll start with the standards. We've got the Pixel 9, which is kind of your entry-level Pixel, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a low quality, lower on the rung hardware necessarily. They all have the same Tensor G4 processor inside. The 9 has a little bit less RAM than the other ones. It has 12 gigs of RAM, which is pretty good.
Wow.
The other ones are a step up. Yeah, that's a lot, but then you compare it to the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL, and I believe the Fold also has the 16 gigs of memory. So, and why do they need that? Well, because, that Tensor G4 doing a lot of AI processing. I mean, Google's big on software, which we will talk about a little bit later. But as for the 9, 6.3-inch display, Actua display, which is just a nice brighter display for outside. In fact, 35% brighter than the Pixel 8. Comes in a lot. Actually, this was one thing that I really appreciated about being there in person, is that I got to see all of the different colors, and actually got to talk to the guy who created all the colors for all the devices. And if you see the Pixel 9, which is the standard, the lower tier, I guess, array of phones, they have some really cool colors like wintergreen and peony, which is like a really bright pink. If you think of highlighters, there's certain types of highlighters that have that kind of like neon feel to it, and that's what these colors look like in person. It was really catching. Yeah, it was really, really cool. 20% longer battery life on the 9. $799 is your entry point for their kind of basic phone. And then you've got the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL, which are the step up. 6.3-inch display on the 9 Pro, XL has a 6.68 inch, so you're getting larger and larger. Yes, a nice assortment of colors, and still some unique colors, but not quite as vibrant, I'd say. They kind of muted that class of color down for those. And I mean, it's just what really struck me about these phones from a design perspective is the casing, the hardware on the side. Like now they have kind of a flat side, but it's really polished, really shiny. It just feels so elegant when you've got it in your hand. It's just, I can't wait to get my hands on one for myself. But and that's just the design itself, right? The cameras, they're all sharing. My understanding is they're all sharing the same excellent standard 2 cameras. The 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL has an additional camera there, of course, and they're just really really nice looking devices. It really seems like Google has stepped it up in the design department, redesigned the camera housing so it's not a straight rectangular bar. It's now this like oblong pill shape that really is very unique, but also looks really nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does look good, and there is a very premium polish to all of these devices for sure. I would feel quite cool holding one of these phones. And
you're quite cool not holding the phones, Micah, but with the phone, you'd be like a superhero. Yeah. I should also mention just real quick, 9 Pro, $999, 9 Pro XL, $1,099. So this is kind of the first of the non-foldable Pixels that we've seen that's gone over the $1,000 mark.
And these are available now. Available when?
Oh boy, I know that they're available in a couple of weeks. I didn't write down the exact release date for these, but you can definitely pre-order them now. And you should also know that if you get these phones, you get a year of their Gemini Advanced AI kind of suite, which normally is like $20 a month. You get that for a solid year. You also get 2 terabytes of cloud storage. And I'm telling you, it's a really smart move on Google's part to give you that long, to not just give you like, in 3 months, because a year is long enough to get you totally used to it, get you, figure out a way for these features to kind of make their way into your habit. And it's going to be really hard to undo it a year from now.
Yep. That's
if you buy into it.
That's what I was thinking too. It seems like Google thinks the Pixel 9 Pro is going to be a really important seller for it, because the Pixel 9 and the Pro XL will be on shelves on August 22nd. However, the Pixel 9 Pro will be on shelves on September 4th. So that seems to suggest that they're trying to get even more of the Pixel 9 Pro than maybe the Pro XL and the standard Pixel 9. We'll see, of course, how that plays out. But
sure.
Of course, Google also has provided the latest foldable. It's cool to still see foldables as part of the Android part of the marketplace. And
big time.
What's going on with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold in comparison to foldables of yesteryear?
Well, I mean, the original Fold was unique when compared side by side with the other foldables in the market, the Z Fold 5 and, Xiaomi, and they've all got Motorola is pretty notable in the foldables market for Android. The Pixel Fold went with a different aspect ratio initially, and it was kind of more squarish. And what that allowed for is the front cover screen to more resemble the kind of space that you have on a standard phone. So when it's in standard phone mode, you don't feel like you're sacrificing. The Z Fold series is always very narrow and thin on the standard phone front screen. And it's actually really, I find it really difficult to use as a result as a regular phone. So the original Fold addressed that and made things wider. With this new one, they've tweaked the ratio a little bit. So they have narrowed it slightly, but they haven't narrowed it to the point to where you're sacrificing, to where you're suddenly getting into, whoa, this is too narrow. What they've actually done is they've made it a little bit taller. And so it kind of stretches it out slightly. When you open it up, that means that you're coming almost more into a zone where it's squared off. It's not quite a rectangle as much as it is close to a square. And, and so it remains to be seen whether that was a smart move for the inside of it. In my, playing around with it at the event, I did see that like when you opened it up into fold out mode, Gmail is one really good example of how it's not working in an ideal sense. Gmail would open up in phone mode, so it would stretch everything across the display. You had to rotate it to the side where I think the system recognizes it's slightly wider, and then it kicks into the dual side mode where on the left is your inbox and on the right is your email. And it really should be the whole thing when you open it up. That's what you expect. So there's weird little intricacies and differentiations there for developers to adhere to and figure out, Google included, obviously.
Yeah,
but
clearly.
All things considered, I mean, many people are saying after their time with the Pro Fold that this is, one of, if not the best foldable attempt that we've seen. And I can't make that claim, but I can say, I played around with it for a while. It feels so nice. Like the whole series of phones just feel really nice in your hand. They feel elegant. They feel expensive. This one is expensive at $1,800 essentially. You get a couple of different color options. And you get that interior 8-inch Super Actua Flex display. So it's really cool.
Expensive.
Yeah. A little pricey, but they didn't boost the price of their Fold, which they did with the other ones. They went up $100 from prices that we've been used to. This one, it's almost like they said, well, we can't really boost the Fold another $100, right? And so they didn't.
Right. Well, let's move to wearables because there is a new Google Pixel Watch. As is typical when it comes to, I think, wearables in particular and watches, it can be hard to get someone to purchase the next version if they've got the previous version. So I'm curious, did Google put forth, here's why this one is the best ever, hardware-wise, and is an upgrade anyone should make? Or do they kind of acknowledge the fact that people who are maybe using the last gen model wouldn't necessarily want to make this upgrade?
I'm not certain that they outwardly acknowledged that fact. They didn't go out of their way to say that, but they do give you, or some users, a very specific and obvious reason to upgrade, and that is that there's two sizes now instead of just one. It used to be just the 41 millimeter, which is kind of a smaller watch face, although my wife is hoping that they have an even smaller one than 41 millimeters for her wrist, because she's been using the version 2, and would like it to be a little smaller. Instead, they're offering a larger 45 millimeter. And so, if you have been using the old one, and I know there are people, I've definitely talked to people that are like, I like the Pixel Watch, it's just a little small on my wrist and I want it to be a little bit larger. You now have that option with the 45 millimeter, and they've expanded the display to kind of minimize some of the bezel that you get. You still get the really rounded kind of curvature of the watch. Again, just very elegant and striking. It's one of the things that I've really loved about the Pixel Watch from launch is it has this really unique, elegant kind of roundness to it that when you see it in person, it's just so nice and very satisfying to twist the thing on the side and have it interact with the Wear OS that's running underneath. Up to 36 hours if you're in battery saver mode, but more than 24 hours if not. That's a hard thing to compare against. Like my watch right now is the OnePlus Watch 2, and it's got a hybrid dual OS architecture, and so it can do Wear OS and last up to like 4 or 5 days. Depending on what it's doing at any given time. So Google's making progress on battery life, but it can't quite compare to some of the best out there as far as that's concerned. But I think really when you're talking about, I think with the Pixel Watch 3, I think what's really impressive about this is some of the stuff that we'll talk about in software. That's where it's really going to shine. But as far as pricing is concerned, 41 millimeter, $349 for Wi-Fi, $449 for LTE. And then if you got the larger watch size, that's 45 millimeter, $399 for Wi-Fi, $400 $449 for LTE, or no, I think it's $499 for LTE. Sorry.
Okay. So you could get up there in price, but those those battery life features, or those battery life quotes, are quite impressive in comparison to the Apple Watch. I will say that.
Okay.
Yeah, Apple Watch does not last that long at all.
Yeah. Well, and
24 hours is kind of the most, but
yeah,
I charge
and
every
that's
night.
that's what they say, and then you get it fresh out of the box. You get that, and then you got to give it a couple of months, let it settle in, get used to how hard it's working for you, and it usually comes down.
And then last in the hardware section is, or I should say, are the Google Pixel Buds, the Google Pixel Buds Pro 2, the BP2. So tell us about the BP2. And I know that a lot of this is going to be AI stuff, but outside of that, how does it compare? Do we have better audio? Do we have longer listening time? What's going on here?
Yeah, 27% smaller than before, 24% lighter. You've got 8 hours with that noise cancellation on, which I think is pretty comparable to what it was before, maybe a little bit longer, 30 hours with the case. But really, I think the big story here is a couple of things. It's the Tensor A1 chip, which is a chip that is specific to kind of the operation and integration of AI. Yes, like you said, coming into the buds, streaming from your phone, all that kind of stuff. And then you've got a new thing as part of the design is that little nub. If you see the video, if you're watching the video version, you can see on one side is the part that goes into your ear hole, and on the other side is this little like half disc or whatever. That didn't used to be there. That's meant to be kind of like a locking mechanism, because that has been a complaint for some people. Certain ear types, the buds will fall out relatively easily, and that thing you kind of twist it into place and it kind of locks it into your ear. And then they do kind of follow some of the real nice colorways of the Pixel 9. So you've got the peony, you've got the wintergreen. Really, I mean, if you're rocking the 9, get one of those colors and get the earbuds to match it. You're gonna look really stylish. Like it looks really nice in person. $229 for these, and I'm definitely excited. I'm a huge fan of the Pixel Buds series, and some of the AI features which we'll talk about make this really exciting as well.
Thanks so much for watching this little chunk of Tech News Weekly. If you'd like to get the full episode, well, head over to twit.tv/TNW. There you'll find buttons you can click or tap to subscribe to the entire show in audio and video formats. Or just look in the description. We've got links down there as well.